So to start today, I want to share with you a poem by Winifred Brand. Now, this came out of an old Unity magazine, and so it was written quite a while ago, and it's called Never Too Late. The most wonderful thing about living is this, that it's never too late to change your thoughts or your goals, your path or your plans, the comfortable way, for the strange, the mystery. It's never too late to correct a mistake, to go for the best you can find, to shoot for the stars with your feet on the ground, to leave all your failures behind. It's never too late. What a wonderful thought, what a perfect reply to despair. The promise of God that it's never too late to start your life over with prayer. I love that. I think that's so beautiful. And here we are. We're in this New Year time. I'll have to share with you a couple of little things I found on the internet. One is that an optimist stays awake to see the new year in, and a pessimist stays awake to make sure the old year leaves. And I love this. A New Year's resolution is something that goes in one year and out the other. You know it's time for a New Year's resolution when you step on a talking scale and it says, 1 at a time, please. So there's this little story that Janine was taking an afternoon nap on New Year's Eve before the festivities, and when she woke up, she told her husband that she had this dream that he had gotten her a diamond ring for New Year's, and he just kind of looked at her and he says, aha, well, you'll know tonight. And so the evening went on, and it comes to the point where New Year's is coming in, and Max comes up to her and he hands her this small package, and excited she opens up the package, and it was a book entitled The Meaning of Dreams. So I love that holidays are great reminders for us. As we moved through Christmas, Christmas is that reminder of the Christ essence that we are, and that we can see in everyone if we choose to look with those eyes. And it's that reminder of our oneness, and that reminder of how important it is for us to be here for each other in whatever ways that we can. And New Year's is the time that it's kind of exciting, because we look at New Year's as that opportunity to create something new and something different. And of course, we know that that's an everyday occurrence. But I love that holidays in particular just give us that focused time to think about these things. I think it's important, as we look at this last year, to reflect on all the ways that we were blessed throughout this year. How many of us had great blessings this past year? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important for us to be in gratitude for those and to take time to really reflect on those. I also think it's important, as we look at this past year, to take some time to think of those, our loved ones, who have journeyed into this realm beyond the physical. I know that many here today have experienced the physical loss of someone in their lives, and I do think it's powerful when we take time to just hold them in our hearts and in our minds and to bless them on their continued journey. And I also think it's important to look at this past year and to see maybe what didn't work so well for us. Anybody have some things maybe didn't work so well for us this past year? So it's great, only a few is so fantastic. And so, in looking at that, and whether it's this past year or maybe patterns of our life, I think it's important that we can have this time to recognize that we can create something different, that we can create something new. Now, I want to always say right up front, there is no one right way. I'm going to offer a couple of different ways here, but those are just ideas that I'm offering. The main thing that I would recommend is that you find what empowers you. If you don't feel empowered by something that you're doing, then it's probably not in your best interest. So find that something that is going to work for you. So I thought about, if we were going to build a house, we may not personally go in and clean up the foundation, but the foundation is going to be cleaned up before we build the house. Yes? Yes, hopefully. And so I recognize that it's the same with our lives, that it's important for us and that's why I think it's important to reflect on this past year or to reflect on life itself, because I think it's important for us to look at the foundation of what is, and as we're looking at what we desire, it's important for us to clean up some of the foundation in order to really create a solid life of what we have desired. Now, I am not a believer that we can just delete what has occurred. I remember one time reading that our lives, our experiences are like these blueprints, but that they're like 3D, and that as with time, as we shift our perspective, that we kind of shave down some of those old things, but at the bottommost part of it, that blueprint is always there, which is not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. But what we can do is we can clean up some of those things again, and we're going to talk about exactly how we can do that, so that we can build on it. So when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about if you had a piece of art already done and you wanted to create something different with that, there's a number of things that you could do. Now, I was inspired by this with my son-in-law, and I'm at their house a lot, but this was about a month ago when I was at their house, and out in his garage, he had this piece of art on an easel, and I was really interested in what he was doing. And so what he had done was he had taken a piece of art that didn't speak to him, and he painted, he primed over it, and then he created this whole new piece of art. And he did like some 3D things, to make it more three-dimensional. It was really awesome. And so then I went into his house, and in the hallway, there's a painting hanging, and on that one, he had left the original art, but then he had taken his paintbrush and he had made these strokes like commas, and it just created this whole different dynamic to this piece of art. And then I went into their bedroom, and he had this huge piece that he had left most of the background. He had done a little bit with the background, but then he had literally taken these squares that create kind of an image, and he had taken and he had glued those on to this piece of art. And so again, he created this whole different expression. And I thought that's really, it really struck me at that moment. We have so many ways that we can recreate our life experience. Or maybe we don't want to recreate, maybe we just want to create. But there's so many different ways that we can do this. I think ultimately what we have to recognize is all of us have experiences, have memories, have old programming, have somewhere in our consciousness limited ideas and beliefs that would serve us better if we released our emotional attachment to them. Because I think that forgive and forget, or just forget thing, I think that's kind of crazy that we're going to forget things. The main thing is that we want to release our emotional attachment, that which keeps that vibration, that energy going in the direction that we really don't want to be going in. So, for some of us, we may want to just start over. And that's where I love that I got to connect with Brad and Janet yesterday, because for Brad and Janet, they sold their house, they moved out of their jobs, and they moved to the beach in Texas. And it's been so fun because we've had this wonderful ability to watch this progress on Facebook. And they had built a wonderful A-frame home, and they're literally right there on the ocean, and they've created a new opportunity for both of them in the world of work that doesn't keep them answering to a boss. And it's just been this wonderful dynamic to see they created something totally new, and they truly did move into the mystery. And I guarantee you, because we talked about a little bit, that they had to use some of the denial, some of the things today that we're going to talk about, in order to have the faith to make that journey. Now, some of us may just want to rewrite a few things. Maybe there's just some things that we want to adjust a little bit, so we're going to rewrite a few things. And for some of us, I think, especially does anybody have the same thing sometimes that I have, where I have the same experience, just a different day? Yeah. And so, in that sense, then, we're going to want to literally put some newness into that. We're going to want to really work. That's going to take a little bit more effort for us to shift that. But the thing is, we can do it. We absolutely can do it. This is a guaranteed. So, how do we begin this process? So what I want to share with you today is some good classic unity material. H. Emily Cady wrote a book called Lessons in Truth, and many of you may not know that Lessons in Truth is the basic text of unity. This was originally written in 1894. So keep that in your mind, 1894, okay? So H. Emily Cady talks about denials and affirmations. Now, I want to say here, too, that I can only fit so much into today's talk. So this is going to be a 2 or a 3-part series, okay? So I'm going to talk about denials today and affirmations next week. So she says that a denial is to declare untrue, to repudiate as utterly false. Okay, so deny is untrue, repudiate as utterly false. Now, she also says that in today's usage, the psychological meaning of denial, now, today's usage was 1894, okay? Things haven't changed a whole lot since 1894. The psychological meaning of denial, that of refusing to face up to the truth, so predominates that use of this term that it causes considerable confusion. Here is our clarity. It seems important to acknowledge the appearance of circumstance, but deny its power over us. So in unity, we don't bury our heads in the sand. We're not the feel-good church because we bury our heads in the sand. We are a feel-good church because we have a lot to feel good about. But when it comes to things that we are experiencing in our lives, we don't recommend that you just act like it doesn't exist at all. It's important to recognize what is happening today, do what you need to do, and then move in to these processes. Now, she shares that in Matthew 16:24, Jesus told his disciples, "If any want to become my followers, then let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me." Well, she shares that even in that time, and we see it today as well, that people interpreted that as meaning that they needed to sacrifice and they needed to suffer. To deny themselves meant that they shouldn't be enjoying all the goodness of life. And it even has gone to such a degree where people, they literally hurt their bodies in order to feel like they're denying themselves enough to appease God. And yet she says, Jesus clearly states in Scripture things like, "I have said these things to you that my joy may be in you, that your joy may be complete." He also said, "The Father will give you whatever you ask in my name. Ask and you will receive, so that your joy may be complete. I do not say to you that I will ask the Father on your behalf, for the Father himself loves you." So it was clear that Jesus wasn't meaning this scripture to say suffer, sacrifice. He was clearly saying, I want you to enjoy life. I want you to have abundant life. The kingdom is right here. It's all yours. I want you to be joyful. So clearly that wasn't the message. So I want to share with you what H. Emily Cady says is the message. She said, in our ignorance of the nature of God, our Father, let me say here, this was written in 1894. And you're going to find that the classic unity material refers to God in the masculine sense, Father, Him. Now, it's not at all because they ever believed that God was this being outside of them that was a male. It was because they studied so closely the teachings of Jesus and referred to God as Jesus referred to God. But as you hear, because I'm going to read it to you just from her text, know that consciousness was greater, expanded than that. Okay, in our ignorance of the nature of God our Father and of our relation to Him, we have believed that our enjoyment came from external sources, usually from gaining possession of something that we did not have. Anybody do that this past week? There is a human self, a carnal mind that reports lies from the external world and is not to be relied upon fully. This is the self of which Jesus spoke when he said, let them deny themselves. He's saying, deny that carnal mind that sees limitations, that thinks that your goodness lies outside of you. Deny that mind. And the real innermost self of each of us, the self that is the divine self, because, and I love how she says this, because it is an expression or pressing out of God into visibility, is always one with the Father. Your divine self is never sick, never afraid, never selfish. Some people who, during the last few years, 1894, just a reminder, have been making a special study of the mind, find it a fact that certain wrong or false beliefs held by us really are the cause of all sorts of trouble, physical, moral, and financial. Wow, they knew this in 1894. They have learned that wrong or error beliefs arise only in the human mind. They have learned and actually proven that we can, by a persistent effort of the will, change our beliefs, and by this means entirely change our troublesome circumstances and bodily conditions. Bam, right there. You know, I'm thinking, and we're still trying to get it? I'm thinking, let's do it. Let's just do it and bring this message out into the world. So she says one of the methods they had found will work every time in getting rid of troublesome conditions is to deny them. First, to deny that such things have or could have power to make us unhappy, and second, to deny that these things do in reality exist at all. Now, when she's talking about reality, she is talking about reality with the big R, absolute. Okay? So she's talking about in the bigger absolute reality, these things are not real. She says, deny evil and affirm good. Now in unity we see evil as just that error thinking over and over and over again, okay? We're denying evil and affirming good. Deny weakness, affirm strength. Deny any undesirable condition and affirm the good that you desire. And it made me immediately think of the scripture where Jesus is in the desert and he's being tempted by Satan. And he says to Satan, get thee behind me, you have no power over me. And I've used this so many times in my life, and this is really a powerful denial. You know, get thee behind me, error thinking, because you have no power over me. You're not real in my life. And you know, I love how he said, get behind me, because he didn't want that to be in his peripheral vision. You know, we're talking about a full head-on denial that I'm going to get it out of my consciousness as much as I can. You know, we want to get there as much as we can. And along with denials, we're going to use affirmations. And I'm going to, you know, do a tiny bit of that today in what I have to share, but mainly we're going to talk about affirmations next week. And then in addition to denials and affirmations, we're going to call on our 12 powers. Now, many of you were here last week, and if you weren't, I encourage you to either go to the web and listen to the talk or get the CD of it or the DVD of it, because it really moves us into understanding what each of these powers all are. Charles Fillmore, and actually they came before Charles, but he expanded more on them. But the 12 powers that each of us are imbued with, they are life, imagination, power, judgment or discernment, understanding, zeal, elimination, faith, love, order, will, and strength. And I know those because there's a great little kind of acronym, LIP, JUZE, J-U-Z-E, flows. And it makes it easy to remember them. So it does, actually. Okay, so I can only share with you from my personal experience at this point. So I shared earlier this year that my body has been experiencing an illness called fibromyalgia. And I feel that I am progressing in a good direction. But one of the symptoms of fibromyalgia is chronic pain. And I deal with that every single day. And so it's easy, and I think you'll relate to this, whatever it is you're experiencing, it's easy to focus on what is showing up, isn't it? I mean, we can get so immersed in what is showing up. And yet, if we want something different. That's why I say as much as we can get something different into our consciousness, it's going to start moving us. So it's why it takes commitment and effort and dedication and discipline, to really start moving us in the direction that we want to go. Now, the first thing, because my deepest desire is to release this illness, and my deepest knowing in me is that I am going to be so much better. But I've got to get my deepest desire lined up with my thinking mind, okay? I mean, I have to do that. So the first thing that I use is denial. And so I deny that this illness has any true power in my life. Now, what that means is that I know that there's only one presence and one power, and that is God. And that God is infinite life, infinite possibility. I know that in the realm of God, all things are possible. That's what I can lean into, and that's what empowers me. Now, I was thinking about that in using the denial, what are some of my powers that I'm going to call on in that? I'm going to call on the power of elimination. Because I'm going to have to use my power of elimination to release the limited ideas and beliefs that have been given to me by doctors that have told me this is what this looks like, this is what it's going to look like, or people who have shared things. So I've got to use my power of elimination and say, I release that thinking. It has no power in my life. I am also going to call upon the power of life. And this is where I go into more of affirmation, my power of imagination and my power of life. And in that, I'm going to take the time to literally sink into seeing every atom and molecule and cell filled with the divine life of God and feel that pulsating through every aspect of my being. I'm also going to call upon my power of judgment or discernment, because I promise you that as you start focusing on what it is that you desire, many paths are going to present themselves because there's no one path. And so I call upon that power of judgment and discernment of what is right for me, what feels right for me, and I move in that direction with my power of strength and with my power of will. I want to share with you the power of will. It is the spiritual faculty which enables us to make choices and focus our energy into action to achieve a goal. So boy, we've got to get a hold of that power of will, because that power of will coupled with the power of strength that I can keep my mind focused on this will definitely start to move us in the direction that we desire to go. And then what do we have to do? We have to keep on keeping on. Now, maybe you've had experiences this past year of maybe disharmony in relationships. And so your opportunity is to look at that and say, okay, what am I willing to release? Maybe it's you're willing to release attachment to needing things to be peaceful. Maybe it's you're willing to release your judgments about how people are showing up. Here's the thing that I can tell you 100% is that I've seen this happen quite a few times more recently, where somebody has just gotten clear in their own mind and their own heart, and they have found that center of peace, and whoosh, all of a sudden people are showing up differently in their lives. Who is the one who changed? It really does come back here. And when we find that peace, it's amazing how that, we are one energy. Maybe you've had experiences of lack throughout this past year. And maybe that's been a family dynamic for years and years and years. Maybe you have felt that you could never really get a job that was going to pay you more than what you need every month, or that you didn't have to get a job, that somehow it was going to come in some way else. What is it what old beliefs are you holding on to that you are ready to release? And then deny that those things have power over you. I can't tell you how many times I stood in my living room and by myself and would say, "Get behind me, because you have no power over me." And I would use my power of power in that, because that's what we have to do. We have to command these things to get behind us, because you have no power over me. Now, like I say, next week we're going to go into, okay, what are we going to focus on then? But I really want to encourage you this week, as we move into this new year, to spend some time, you're really thinking about, what has been so wonderful this year. Spend some time blessing those who have made their transition, who have gone on beyond this physical realm, and really spend some time with thinking about, what is it that I'm ready to release? Because I know what I'm ready to move into. Now, a week from this Wednesday, on January 8th, we're going to be having our burning bowl ceremony. I love that this is working out, that we're going to talk about releasing this week. Next week, we're going to talk about moving into what we desire. So we're going to be ready for that burning bowl ceremony. That'll be at 7 o'clock, where we are literally going to have flash paper, write our things on, release, and then we're going to write a letter to God that this is thank you for what is unfolding in my life today. You will be amazed. How many of us have written letters to God? Oh my gosh, like most of us. How many of us have been amazed when we've gotten our letters back 6 months later? Yeah, it's amazing. It's here. And it's in every single one of us. Every single one of us has the power, has the imagination, has the life, has the wisdom, has the understanding. You have everything that you need to truly create the life that you desire. And you know what? You have a room full of people here who are there to cheer you on, who are there to be your spiritual support. And what a blessing is that? That is an incredible blessing. So I just want to say to you that I love you and I bless you, and I see this year, 2014, as being for each and every one of us, I see this as being the best year of our lives. And only the beginning of the best. And so it is, and so it shall be, and namaste. Namaste.